All right, everyone, let's go ahead and get started. For guests and visitors, my name is Steve Payerle, Club President, and I'd like to welcome you all to the fourth meeting of the 47th year of the Rotary Club of Dublin, Worthington, or the Dublin Worthington Rotary Club, whichever you prefer. Today's invocation and pledge of allegiance will be offered by George Norris. Don't see George. Anybody want to fill in?
I'll gladly fill in.
Yeah.
An invocation.
Invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Please bow your heads. Our Father, we thank you for our many blessings. Keep us from harm. Teach us to be true to each other, ourselves, and thee. Amen. And now we need the flag.
There, oh yeah.
Here we go, over in the corner.
Hold on a second. There we go.
Flag over here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Alan. Do we have any guests?
Flip us off the flag.
Oh, yeah. Don't see any guests. Our speaker will be, oh, we have a guest?
There you go, Christy. I'm the mic guy today. Push the button.
Is it on? Glenn, we're Detroit. Peggy.
Oh, sure. I'm glad I didn't see you. Welcome. All right. And our speaker will be introduced later by Mark Bieber. Thanks for coming. All right. So, Sergeant Mike Moulton. I thought I saw him around here. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I heard that. I will remember that. I will remember that. Mike for Mike. Go on. Green now, can you hear me? There we go. All right, we'll get started with happy dollars. How about in the crowd first, and then we'll go to online.
Come on over here and get in the camera.
Can you see me now?
Yes.
And what do you got?
All right. My happy dollar is that on Friday, you guys haven't run me off yet. I will have been at the Worthington Libraries for 20 years. And I've officially been at Ohio for 20 years. So it's like, who's speaking through the money?
So let's get John Bader. John, grab the pot for me.
And I will do 20 for 20.
Ooh, look at that.
Wow,
20 for
there
20.
we go.
John, you get to carry the pot since I saw your member profile and you're hawking your book as usual. So
Can I do an unhappy dollar really
put
quick?
$1 in to start that advertisement. And then whoever can get in.
Can I also do an unhappy dollar? And
Unhappy
I
dollar
am
for
not
Ann.
excited about Ohio or Oklahoma going to the SEC.
Here, would you want to say that?
University is so bad.
Say that.
So bad.
Say that live.
As an Oklahoma,
Don't dawdle, John.
as an Oklahoma fan, I'm not excited about Oklahoma going to SEC, but that's okay. It's fine. So that's my unhappy dollar.
As most of you saw when you came in, my girlfriend came with me today. Today is 20 days since that knee got operated on, and on the 13th day, we walked into rehab over in Novacare in Linwood. She turned around and handed me the cane and walked from here to the street and said, and she hasn't used the cane since. Unreal.
Be $1 a step. Oh, yeah, oh, Joe's back here.
I have a happy dollar. My mom served visiting in Georgia.
Oh, very nice.
Good to see her. I haven't been a year.
Peggy?
Yeah. Let's go ahead and tell you. Skylar.
Oh. I don't.
Carry
I'm
that.
not, yeah, people on the, oh, on the Zoom meeting, yeah.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, Peggy's giving a happy daughter, our granddaughter Skylar is 17 years old. She'll be a senior in high school this year. But she'll finish Army boot camp in August the 11th. She's going to join the National Guard and she's going to be a combat engineer, so. Very good. Peggy, I want to tell you for another happy dollar, our grandson Nolan got married a few weeks ago, and they've settled. He's stationed at Warren Air Force Base. He's a lieutenant in the Air Force, and is a missileer underground most of the day. So, thank you. All right. Anybody else? Here we go. Dave's got something.
There you go, Dave. Yes, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to let everyone know that we took our twin granddaughters up to Cleveland and we visited Case Western Reserve where Feedy will I'm trying, Josephine, that's her real name, will be attending school, and I was just so pleased. We attended the student union, and there were 13 plaques of Nobel Prize winners on the wall. And we're really pleased that she's pleased with the university and want to let everyone know.
Very good. There you go, Alan's got it.
Well, I am looking for reasons to contribute $50 because of the meetings that I missed in the winter time. And yesterday, here's one for truth and honesty, because yesterday in preparation for the great Dublin Worthington Rotary Club golf outing, not having had a club in my hand for 2 years, I went over and hit some golf balls at Worthington Hills. And when I came back to my car, the lower left quarter panel, the extension of the bumper was just creased with white paint. And I looked at the big beamer next to me in the right front corner, had white paint all over it. So I left a note, and this morning the person called me and said, let's get together and work this out. So a happy dollar for honesty.
That's after your plant was started.
Yeah, right.
Okay. How about those folks online? Do we see anybody with their hand up there? I'm glasses, I can almost see you. If we don't have anybody online, get started with everybody else. Is Jerry Katz in the crowd?
Behind you.
Jerry.
On the screen.
He's right there.
Yes, I'm right here.
Jerry, just for you telling jokes from the 1940s, which really don't relate this time of day. Throw a dollar in for me, will you please? I didn't even get those, and I'm old enough to understand.
I'll throw in $1.
Oh, okay. That's an accomplishment right there. Get a dollar, John, get a dollar from Ken Carey back here for bailing out on us, not wanting to play with his friends from Rotary, but just leaving us behind, so. Where's Jim Miller? Is he here?
No.
Jim not online? I was gonna say Jim has to have a happy dollar for not being president anymore.
You can just give it to me.
So, Phil Geisler, we'll give Phil Geisler. Phil, are you online? Phil, for asking me to fill in for him as sergeant at a ghost meeting. Came over and wasn't even a meeting here. So we'll give Phil's dollar. And then I noticed a number of folks in here wearing shorts today. In this club, you're used to wear a jacket and tie, and I don't know where that went, but if you got a pair of shorts on today, throw a dollar in for me, please.
Do I get credit?
Credit on, okay.
Credit for all the years I wore a coat.
Yeah, I know. And then last but not least, for any of you who are not playing in the golf outing Friday, throw a dollar in just for missing the camaraderie with all your good friends from Rotary. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mike. We'll start on Zoom first. Does anybody on Zoom have any announcements? Hearing none, we'll go to the room. I have an announcement. If you have an announcement, make your way up here. But the first announcement, I don't want to alarm anybody because, as I understand it, Jim Miller is currently doing fine. But as some of you might know, he was scheduled to have a stent put in his heart yesterday. He went in for the procedure. He came out 45 minutes later, and it turns out they ran into, some unexpected things, and now he's either looking at a double or a triple bypass. So I talked to him yesterday. He and Anita are fine. They're just kind of, surprised by all this more than anything. So he is at OSU Ross in room 5040. And it seems like he's going to get his procedure sometime this week. They're kind of trying to fit him in the schedule, but I think right now he's just kind of bored and anxious to get this over with.
Is this the vegetarian that runs a lot?
Yeah.
So much for that idea.
Right. So his doctors did say, he's got a very good outlook. I mean, because of his running and his diet, he's in excellent condition for this procedure. So keep him in your mind and spirit. And if you want to reach out to him, go ahead. He said, it's probably just going to be family for visitors. But yeah, he said he'll be in touch soon. Alan.
Hi, everybody, just want to remind you that on September 20th will be the Bill Shantz Memorial Golf Outing. It's going to be at Scioto Reserve. If anybody would like to hold, sponsor, or do whatever you did last year, beverage card, breakfast, whatever, see me or get a hold of me and we'll make arrangements for you to be able to do something like that. So it's Monday, I think, September 20th. Thanks.
Another announcement, this is the last meeting that we'll have in this space. So going forward, we're going to be going to my office building, the conference room there. It's on the first floor. It's at 400 West Wilson Bridge Road. As soon as you walk up the stairs into the lobby, you'll head straight to the elevators. You'll turn left. There's a giant conference room to the left. You can't miss it. And I'll send another reminder, next week as well. But don't come here anymore. Anybody else have any announcements? I feel like I'm forgetting one. Christy, did we have an announcement? Not yet. All right. Then I'll turn it over to you, Mark, for an introduction for our speaker.
Okay, and going into my 15-minute prepared remarks. That was a joke. So Travis Gulling is the executive director of A Kid Again. If you're not familiar with A Kid Again, I think you'll be really surprised and pleased to hear more about this organization. They do some really amazing things. You may remember that name from a couple of years ago. I think it was every time the Buckeyes scored a touchdown, if you were listening to the radio, the extra point would generate some funds for the organization. So that was kind of cool. But otherwise, you're not here to hear me talk. So Travis, thanks for joining us.
Perfect. Hello, how's everyone? Can you hear me okay? Awesome. If you can't, just holler or let me know. So as Mark said, I'm Travis Gulling and I'm the executive director at A Kid Again. How many of you have heard of A Kid Again? By show of hands. That's great. I tell people frequently that we're the best kept secret in Columbus, and hopefully over the next few minutes, I can kind of walk through why I feel like what we're doing here is making a significant impact on families here in Central Ohio. So our mission is to provide hope, happiness, and healing for families that are raising a child with a life-threatening condition. There's a variety of things that make us unique, but a few of them are, we say that we're condition agnostic. So we are open to any life-threatening condition. So if you have a child that has all too common cancer or cystic fibrosis, sickle cell anemia, rare genetic disorders, all of those families would qualify to join A Kid Again's program. What makes that kind of unique is many people have so many rare conditions or a variety of rare conditions that there's not really a nonprofit to support them. A few months ago, I met a person that their child was the 15th person in the world to have a rare condition, and they live right here in Central Ohio. So there's not a nonprofit to support them, and that's where A Kid Again comes in. What also makes us unique is when you hear about organizations that work with families that are raising a child with some sort of illness, typically that organization will focus just on the sick child, but we don't. We focus on the entire family. If you've ever had a family member that is sick, you know that it doesn't just affect that person, it affects the entire family. So we include everybody, parents, guardians, siblings, the sick child, everybody is included in our program. And so I've mentioned kind of our program a few times. What we do is every single month, we provide an event for the entire family. So we call them adventures because that sounds more fun for a 6-year-old than saying, let's go to this fun event. But we call them cost-free and carefree adventures. So it's completely free to enroll in our program. There's nothing that you have to worry about from the moment you get there to the moment you leave. We take care of parking to admission tickets to meals, activities throughout the day. We kind of take care of all of those different things. I'll walk through what some of our adventures are and kind of the way our program works throughout Central Ohio. I do think it's important to note though, so we're actually a national organization. We were founded 26 years ago right here in Columbus, Ohio. And now we serve somewhere between 18 and 20,000 people nationally. And in Central Ohio, we serve about 5,500 families or 5,500 people here in Central Ohio. So we have chapters in Cleveland, Cincinnati, Charlotte, Philadelphia, Indiana, and we're getting ready to expand into Michigan, Pittsburgh. And we actually do a program, which I'll walk through shortly here, where we're able to support families in 32 states currently. So I kind of mentioned that we're, provide events for families. And I mentioned that if you go through something, or if you have a family member that's going through some sort of medical condition, it doesn't just affect you, it affects everybody. And, I think the thing that is nice too is that we're a recurring program. It's not just a one-time event that you get to do something. The moment you enroll, you can stay in our program, as long as you're eligible in the life-threatening, with your life-threatening condition. So what makes us kind of a nice thing for families is you can see this child here is in their medical bed. And we have found, and research will tell you, that when you have something to look forward to, you fight harder to beat your condition. So if you've ever met somebody that says, I have cancer, but my son or daughter is getting married, I have to be at that wedding, or I want to see my grandchild born, they fight for that moment. And that's what happens with all of our kids, is they have this anticipation. Every single month, they know that there's an adventure coming up. So they fight harder for their treatment because they want to make sure they can be out of the hospital. They're not going through chemotherapy or having a surgery. They want to go to our adventure every single month. And if you have questions throughout, don't feel that you have to wait for the end of presentation. And the participation piece. So they're anticipating coming out, looking forward to getting out of their hospital bed, going and doing some sort of activity. And then many organizations will just do that for the one sick child, but we do it for everybody. And so when you go to an adventure, you get to see that your brother or sister is just like you. You're forgetting about the illness and you're really just feeling like a kid again, which is the purpose of why we exist. And I think it's nice too that we focus on a community approach. So when you go there and you see your brother that's in a wheelchair, about 20% of our families have a child that's in a wheelchair. And when you see that and you see all these other kids that have brothers or sisters with a wheelchair as well, you realize you're not in this alone, that there's other people going through very similar things that you and your family are going through as well. So that participation, building a community together, having something to look forward to is deeply impactful for our families. And it's making those memories, which is vital. Unfortunately, we do have the moments where a child passes. So we call them our angel wing families. We had that happen actually last week. So that family, sorry, we've gotten to know the kid pretty well. His name's Philip. He was able to be at the adventure the week before. and he passed away unexpectedly 7 days after his adventure. And the family sent us messages of him at Kings Island with his brothers and sisters smiling, and we were able to provide those lasting memories for the brothers, the sisters, the entire family, because you never know what's going to happen when our families do have these life-threatening conditions. We have a board member who has said to me multiple times, Travis, every adventure has to be perfect because it is probably someone's last. And since I've been here, that statement has almost been true. Every month, we're unfortunately having a moment where someone is passing here locally because of their life-threatening condition. I've talked about adventures. You know, that is what we focus on. That's what we do. These are just kind of a variety of things that we kind of cover throughout a year. So we do something every single month for our families. And like I said, it is a free program for all of the family members to join. So I'll just kind of point out a few of them here. I mentioned Kings Island that Philip's family was able to go to. So on July 14th, we had about 4,000 people at Kings Island, completely free. Cedar Fair is the company that owns Kings Island. They actually own Kings Island, Cedar Point, and about 14 or 15 other amusement parks across the country. They had all of our families come for free. If you go to Kings Island, you've probably heard of Beagle Bucks as well. So every child got $10 worth of Beagle Bucks to spend throughout the park. And then we had a food voucher for everyone, and we paid for all of their parking as well. For some families, depending on their location, we'll even provide gas cards for them to drive because we know that some of the adventures can be a little bit further away. An example would be if you've been to the wilds out east, we'll give every family a gas card for that, because we don't want anything to be an added expense. Our families have on average about $500,000 in medical bills. And then about 30% of our families make less than $30,000. So it doesn't really leave a lot of extra money to pay for gas to drive an hour and a half to go to the wilds. So that's why we exist. We can help mitigate those costs by making the memories that they're talking about. So COVID has obviously affected everything, right? I was talking to Nick earlier and I asked if you continued to meet during COVID, and it sounded like you did, just maybe virtually, as we did with everything. And it makes it really difficult when our mission is to have these monthly events for families when you can't get together. So if I'm sure most of you, or if not all of you, know who Rick Reichert is. Rick is the chair of our board. If you haven't had the opportunity to meet Rick, he is probably one of the most kind men I have ever met in my entire life. Rick said to us when COVID started, well, if we can't have them together, I'm a car guy, let's do a drive-through. And so we created an adventure in a box model where we have these cars literally go through a warehouse there. The second photo is at our parking lot. We're in Crosswoods. We're just like, it took me 10 minutes to get here and I hit all the lights. So it would have taken me 5, I think, if I didn't. So we did drive-through models pretty much all of last year and through the first quarter of this year. The first picture you see there, we did a Valentine's Day party. And so families drove through a warehouse. We had a DJ playing music to add to some excitement. And then we had games that families, this is the game section there that you can see. Families would play a game from their car, throwing a basketball into a hoop. And if they missed, they get to do it again. If they missed, they still get the prize. And so everybody always wins because we have to make every adventure perfect because it may be someone's last. So we want to have those exciting memories for each family. As they moved through the drive-through for the Valentine's Day party, they all ended up getting a box, hence the adventure in a box model. And in that box, they had a tie-dye kit, they had a cookie cutter shaped in a heart, they had construction paper so they could go home and make their Valentines with their family. The tie-dye kit, we provided a white t-shirt with the A Kid Again logo so they could make the mess at their house and not at the warehouse. And so the number of families that came to this, we had, I think, about 150 cars drive through in 2 hours to get these boxes. The second picture there is a cooking themed adventure. I'm sure many of you know Greg Oden as well. So Greg and I are really great friends. As a 5'6" person with shoes on, and Greg is 7'1". It's not the most enjoyable lunch that I've ever had as you sit there and kind of watch him. But Greg loves to cook. A lot of people may not know that. So Greg said, well, why don't we do a cooking themed adventure? And he created a YouTube video teaching families how to make spaghetti and meatballs and grilled cheese and eggs in a basket, because his thing was, well, our families, have $500,000 in medical bills. They have, 30% make less than 30,000. We should try to provide some food support as well, instead of just maybe activities. The number of families that came to this and the support and excitement that we got actually allowed us, we created a program with a local church where they donated a deep freezer, and they donated 27 freezer meals to us that we could give to families. We put an email out letting people know we had this new service, and within 10 minutes we were completely sold out of meals. So we are trying to be more creative, figure out how can we make sure we can impact these families where they get all of the food supplies at an adventure, go home and make these meals. We want to make sure we can impact them in a positive way, not just for fun adventures, but also make sure that they can forget about all the medical bills they may have. The next photo there, you can see a young lady at a bowling alley. That was our first in-person adventure that we conducted in almost 12 months. The feedback was remarkable for that. We had a family come up to me and say, my child's blind and in a wheelchair, and virtual and drive-throughs don't work for her. And so having something in person finally was, a godsend for them. And I think that's things that we don't think about, all those things that we take for granted, whether it's sight or mobility. We have kids here locally that don't have those blessings. The next picture there, we did a drive-in movie. So May was Mental Health Awareness Month. So we actually partnered with the YMCA, Nationwide Children's Hospital, another nonprofit called Adam H, which is focused on mental health here in Columbus. They came out and provided resources for families. And then we showed the movie Trolls at Easton, which also has a lot of mental health undertones in that movie. Nationwide actually provided some resources about the film and for families to be able to talk through mental health and the importance of it with a 7-year-old, and how Trolls can help explain all of those things for everyone. So then this is our biggest adventure that we do. The Columbus Zoo shuts down to the public on a Friday evening. They close around 6 o'clock, and they stay open for us free of charge. They cost us nothing. It costs us $900 to have 2,100 people at the Columbus Zoo. And then if you ever take grandkids or kids to the zoo and you go to the giraffe station, you have to pay $2 or $3 to feed the giraffe. It's completely free for our families. They cover all of those costs. What I think is so unique about this adventure with the zoo is the entire staff stays and they volunteer their time. They're not paid for that evening. So this was a great adventure for us. We actually had a Columbus Dispatch reporter out that evening, and their story was picked up by USA Today. And then it was kind of pushed out, and there was in 32 different markets across the country talking about a kid again and what we're doing. So currently we have just over 1,000 families enrolled. We have about 5 or so people on average in each families. And then I mentioned the angel families that we have. So we do have 13 families right now in that program. So what we do is, so let's talk about Philip's family. So, Philip unfortunately passed, as I mentioned last week. The family stays enrolled in a kid again for 3 years. That's when they need us most, right? Like, that would be the worst thing in the world to say, well, your child has passed and you're no longer enrolled in a kid again. We keep them engaged in our program. I can't tell you the number of families that have come to me saying, like, thank you for allowing our family to stay enrolled, because we needed this for the grieving process. If you go to Kings Island, you'll actually, there's a pavilion towards the back. There's actually a statue of one of our kids at Kings Island. It was his favorite adventure. Gabriel passed in 2011. And they were able to partner with the family there, and they have a cast statue of Gabriel. So we try to find unique ways to kind of memorialize our families to make sure that their legacy is not forgotten, even though it was kind of taken too soon. We're growing pretty rapidly. Right now in Central Ohio, there's about 40,000 families that would qualify to be enrolled in the Kid Again. I think when people hear that number, they always kind of think that's like a lot of people. And it is. And I met with a pulmonologist at Nationwide Children's last week or maybe the week before. And she said, your number's wrong. It's too low. She's like, it is way too low. There are way more than 40,000 people in Central Ohio that would qualify for our program. So just this year, we've enrolled a little over 130 families in the program. This is the largest enrollment we've had in a single year in probably more than 10 years. And we're just over halfway through the year. I think people are looking for an opportunity to do something now because the pandemic had affected them so much. And so it's, like I said, it's free to enroll. People can go to kidagain.org to learn how to enroll. You can fill out the enrollment form today, and your family can be going to adventures on August 7th when we take 2,000 people to Zambezi Bay. Excuse me. So if you know anybody that has a family or child that may qualify, please have them either contact me or go onto our website, because this service is needed in Columbus. It's needed across the country. And it's just kind of an important piece.
The enrollees seems kind of low for how many people are out there. Is there a reason that there aren't more people involved? Like it's an invite only, or I know it's not, but like, is it a messaging issue, getting the word out?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, we're the best kept secret in Columbus. So I started back in November, and we've kind of made some tactical changes to going out there and making an impact for our families. We're deepening our relationship with Nationwide Children's Hospital and also with the Ronald McDonald House. So I think there's a lot of little things like that we've missed over the last 10 or so years. And so we're also looking into staffing structure a little differently. We're looking into hiring an outreach coordinator, so that person would be focused on going out, sharing the message and telling people about what we're doing. We're looking at unique opportunities because we have missed, I feel like, the mark in telling people about a Kid Again for a really, really long time. So this week's Restaurant Week, if you go out to any restaurant participating in Restaurant Week, you should see a Kid Again logo on every menu. I was at Cap City Diner yesterday, and on the back of their menus has messaging about a Kid Again. So they actually selected us as a nonprofit partner for this week. So we're looking into finding those unique partnerships that can kind of enhance the messaging, because, you know, the moment you hear about this, I'm assuming everyone's thinking, where has this been? Or like, this is exciting. This can really make an impact. I've never heard of this before, but we've been around for 26 years. We're very much focused on growth and how can we make a bigger impact, because it's needed. I don't know if that answers your question, but it's kind of a difficult one to.
I wondered if you could tell us the distinction between your organization and the Make-A-Wish.
Absolutely. So number one question I get, it took my dad probably 4 or 5 months to realize it didn't work for Make-A-Wish, because we are very similar in what we do. The difference between what we do and what they do is we pick up where the wish ends. And so if you have a child that receives the wish, you get the one-time adventure, to use our term, whether that's going to Disney or meeting Will Smith or a NASCAR driver, get the one-time thing. And depending on your adventure or your wish, your family may or may not be included in that. That's where we kind of separate, is we are a local organization focused on local activities, as simple as going to a bowling alley, to the local zoo, and we're ongoing approach. So every single month you get to do that. Many people don't don't know that if you get a wish from an organization that's not Make-A-Wish, you're not qualified to get a wish from Make-A-Wish. There's many wish granting organizations, and they're vitally important. That moment is so important to have people go to Disneyland or to go to Disney World or meet those people. We actually, to me, I think we complement each other very well. What they do is so important. What we do is so important. It's finding a way to get our messaging out there where, you know, Michael Jordan is the co-chair of Make-A-Wish nationally. We need like Wayne Gretzky or something for us. I'm kidding.
One of the new Blue Jackets.
Yeah, there's many of them, so it's hard to keep track almost, but we do a lot of partnerships with Ohio State as well. As I mentioned, Greg Oden, Jacoby Boren, if you know the Boren brothers, Jacoby's on our board as well. So we're actually looking into doing an adventure at Ohio State at the Woody Hayes with the football, basketball, and the entire athletic department. Coach Holtman and Coach Mata have been deeply impactful for our organization too. Barb Mata, Thad's wife, is on our board in Indiana. So they've been a long time proponent. Greg has been involved since 2006 when he played basketball for Ohio State. I think it's almost leveraging those relationships to get out there more to distinguish ourselves from that Make-A-Wish. I think this is my last slide. So I'm happy to answer any other questions, or I can ramble on for 15 or 20 more minutes because I know that's what everybody wants. So yes, sir.
Thank you for your presentation. You were talking about expanding enrollment. How are you funded? And is funding a constraint in regards to your capacity to increase enrollment?
So we're, a private nonprofit organization. So we're 100% funded from donations, whether if that's corporations, individuals, foundations, clubs, any of those things. That's how we operate. So right now we raise about $1 million a year to help us take all of our families to go out. We have a staff of 3. We're working with Rick and Greg and other people on our board to develop a strategic plan that will allow us to expand. I think the staffing piece will be really important to have people focused on going out, building relationships. The Ronald McDonald House, I reached out to their CEO to get to know her. And so if you're not familiar with Ronald McDonald House, they're just focused on housing for kids that come to Nationwide Children's Hospital. They have a place to stay. They're not focused on activities. Well, we are. So let's partner together. Let's find a way when kids come to the house that we can provide adventures for them. So that's how we're looking to grow, is finding unique partnerships across Central Ohio. Any other questions?
Yeah,
or-
what was the genesis for Kid Again?
How do we start?
Yeah.
So our founder, his name's Jeffrey Dameron. So he used to work for a Make-A-Wish-like organization. And he had a child that his wish was to meet the president in the Oval Office. And so he did that in 1994. But the White House wouldn't let the siblings in. They would only let the kid and one parent in. And so at the time he said, well, that doesn't seem fair. Like, that doesn't make sense. And he got to know a family that had a child that one of the children had a brain tumor, and started talking with her. And she said, my kids, they never get to go do anything. It's always Christopher. And so Jeffrey started saying, well, why isn't there something out there that supports the whole family? And looked and looked and looked, couldn't find anything, and finally said, let's go start this. Let's do this. So over the last 26 years, we started with, I think, 200 people at the first Kings Island adventure in 1998. And we had over 4,000 people there a week and a half ago. So it's a process to grow it, but it was all one person took to say, we can make a bigger impact in our community.
Pretty amazing.
I think that's a great idea. We lost our granddaughter 12 years ago, 5 years old. She has cerebral palsy, and we weren't aware that you had anything like that, but she would have enjoyed that. And her brother was 10 at the time, and we would have enjoyed that too. In fact, we created a 2
both of them and cameras on her and for children with disabilities. Because our main focus was children with disabilities should be able to play where children that are well should be able to play so that they understand each other. So I salute you on that project.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's, I mean, as you know, it's very difficult working with families and helping them through this. And it's the least we can do. They go through too much and it's too difficult. That putting a smile on a kid's face, it's quite rewarding to see that, because it's, like I said, they're going through too much as it is. They need to forget about their treatments and their doctors, even if it's for just an afternoon.
Since you're located in Worthington, a lot of people with these tables and on the screen participated in the All Children's Park at the Community Center of Worthington. There is swimming pools, et cetera, but on the outside is a safety with mulch and pads and such. When we first built it, they said, no, you got to build with all the safety features. But a lot of sweat, blood, sweat, and tears during the weekends.
Yeah.
Put that thing together. And the concept was the person in a wheelchair, youngster, can still play in that park.
Yeah.
Along with regular children. They can all play together.
Which I think is the point. We should all focus on, we all have our differences, right? But how can we become one community together? If you're not familiar with Flying Horse Farms, it's an amazing place. We're taking our families up to the camp this October. They have a zip line that they can put a kid in a wheelchair in a zip line and go 1/4 mile across a ravine. It is amazing. And that's what we're focused on, right? How can we make an impact so a kid in a wheelchair, their sibling, feels just like a kid again? They are just like everyone else. Nick.
But there,
We can be efficient. We're chain.
You were gonna get your steps in for the day.
the trucks, if there's a kid who, turns in your program who's 14, 15, 16, do you have special activities or adventures that are geared towards kids of various ages?
So historically we don't, but we do now, starting in 22. So our 2021 schedule is kind of determined prior to when I started back in November. But we're actually working with a local esports company to get them involved, to get our older kids involved in those activities. And then we're also doing things, we do a holiday party every year. So at that party, we actually give every kid a holiday gift. And so some feedback is, it's always been focused on little kids, which I get, that's easier to do. We're actually looking to do, it's the holiday party is the day of the Big Ten championship game. So if we don't make it to the Big Ten championship game, we'll have a lot of different issues, but we're hoping that we will. So Greg has agreed to come to that, and you can watch the Big Ten championship game with Greg Oden. So have a separate room kind of for older kids. So we're very much focused on, if you're 2 to 10 to 20, how can we make an impact? And that can be really challenging because if you're 16, do you want to go do the same thing as your 8-year-old sister or brother? And that's definitely a struggle, but we try our best to make an impact for older kids as well.
Steve, I wanted to add, those 2 playgrounds that was built, those handicapped accessible playgrounds were all built by Rotarians.
Awesome, thank you.
Any other questions, or anybody on Zoom have any questions? Well, Travis, youth services is a big part of Rotary, and it's just very heartwarming to hear what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
It's just fantastic. So thank you very much for coming and present with us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. I think at this point, before the raffle, next week's speaker is going to be a representative from Cohatch, I believe, right, Mark? Yes. Not approvingly, yes, thank you. So that will be interesting. And again, we will be at my office, not here, but I'll send a reminder about that. And before the four-way test, we have a raffle.
Look at her trotting right up there.
So we have $10 in the weekly and $102 for the ace of spades. So we can give you the cards. Go now. We will, Number is 346-305.
Peggy. Peggy.
Let's get somebody else here to draw. Roger.
Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.
This number is 346-274.
I don't know about this. Guys, Aaron Coots. Come on up, Pete.
Hey, he sat down next to me.
Uh-huh.
He's got the X on the back.
Yeah.
Like the right one, Pete.
Right.
You want the red one?
Right. Four clubs.
4 clubs.
Tear that up.
Yep, I'll take it.
Thank you.
All right. And now, finally, I think we're ready for the four-way test. All right, and so the things we think, say, and do first.
Is it the truth?
Truth,
Second.
Is it fair?
concern,
Third. Will it build goodwill and
and better friendships.
And fourth.
Will it be
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
concerned.
Thank you, everybody. We are adjourned.
What do we need to do to turn these? Put them away.
They just set down on a charger. See there's microphones sticking up back there.